Hi, my name is Justin Kennedy. My presentation is on media representation and its impact on Asian Americans. Even through the pandemic has subsided, the bias it unleashed hasn't disappeared. In fact, reports show that online anti-Asian hate surged again in 2025, especially after 2024 election season. This tells us that the misinformation and stereotypes circulating during COVID-19 created long-term damage. Today, I want to explore how media representation, not just news, but movies, TV, and social media, shapes what people believe about Asian Americans. Media has the power to fuel harmful stereotypes that lead to bias and violence, but it also has the power to challenge racism and creating understanding. My goal is to show how media has impacted Asian American perceptions historically and how it continues to do so today, and how accurate representation can combat discrimination. Media is one of the biggest influences on how we see different groups of people. For many Americans, their only exposure to Asian American stories come through movies, news coverage, or social media. When representation is limited or distorted, people form incomplete or inaccurate perceptions. Media doesn't just reflect society; it actively shapes how society thinks. When Americans are underrepresented or only shown through a narrow set of stereotypes, the public fills the gaps in with assumptions. This contributes to bias, fear, or even hostility. Then, uh, hostility. That's why understanding media roles is so important. The stereotypes we see today did not appear out of nowhere. They have deepest historical roots. Started in 1800s, Asian immigrants were labeled as the yellow pearl, portraying them as dangerous invaders or disease carriers. Asian women were typically shown as either submissive and delicate, known as the blossom, or as seductive villains known as the dragon lady. After long-standing stereotype is the preferential foreigner. The idea that Asians can never truly be American. These portrayals shaped early Hollywood and early journalism, and they influence how Asian Americans are portrayed even today. In modern media, these older stereotypes appear in new forms. Asian men are often portrayed as nerdy, socially awkward, or asexual. Asian women are frequently hypersexualized or shown only in service roles. Asian characters are often the martial artist, the tech genius, or just background characters with no real story. And these portrayals limit how audience understand Asian Americans. They create a narrow, one-dimensional idea of who Asians are. When people are reportedly shown the same types of characters, it becomes easy to stereotype entire communities. Entire community. During COVID-19, media narratives intensified anti-Asian bias in very visible ways. Under the Trump administration, phrases like Chinese virus, the Wuhan virus, and Kung flu we were used repeatedly in public speeches and press briefings. These racist labels directly connected Asian people to the virus and fueled nationwide fear and anger. At the same time, conspiracy theories spread online, falsely claiming that Asian communities intentionally created or spread COVID-19. Sensationalist headlines, fear based reporting, and political rhetoric all contribute to rising discrimination, harassment, and violence against Asian Americans. Media stereotypes. don't just stay on the screen. They impact how people behave in the real world. When people associate Asians with disease, danger, hypersexuality, and submissiveness, it influences how they treat Asian Americans. Research shows that repeated exposure to stereotypes leads to implicit bias and dehumanization. This normalization of negative attitudes made it easier for people to justify harassment or violence, especially during the pandemic. The Atlanta spa shootings in 2021 are just a clear example of how racialized and sexualized stereotypes can have deadly consequences. The rise of social media has allowed anti-Asian hate to spread even faster. After the pandemic, we saw a major spike in racist memes, slurs, and conspiracy theories. Algorithms often prioritize controversial or sensational content, which amplifies hate speech. Online harassment, including threats, doxing, and targeted attacks, became widespread. Once again, this digital hostility didn't stay online. It fueled real world fear and emboldened and emboldened people to act aggressively toward AAPI communities. Despite the harm, there has been meaningful progress in representation. Movies like Crazy Rich Asians, Minari, and Everything Everywhere all at once brought multi-dimensional Asian American stories to mainstream audiences. We're seeing more AAPI creators, actors, and directors who are telling authentic stories and breaking away from stereotypes. When audiences see Asian Americans as full, complex human beings, it builds empathy and counters ignorance. Community organizations such as Stop AAPI Hate and Asian Americans Advancing Justice has worked to track incidents and prove resources to victims. The federal government, including the Biden administration, has also taken steps to address anti-Asian hate by improving data collection, supporting education campaigns, and partnering with AAPI advocacy groups. These collective efforts highlight the importance of addressing both bias and misinformation. We all have a role to play in combating anti-Asian bias. First, we can practice media literacy. Question the stereotypes we see, look for more accurate information. We can support AAPI creators, journalists, and storytellers who are shaping new narratives. And we can challenge misinformation online by reporting harmful content and sharing accurate, balanced stories. Each of these actions contributes to more informed and equitable society. Thank you for coming to my presentation, and I appreciate you for listening and watching, and you have a good day.